Well, today I had news from Australia, from his daughter, of the sad, I guess, but predicted passing of a good friend. Tom was one of the best, actually. He was a Christian man and an encouragement in all that's good. Reasonably tall, quiet, Scott to the roots of his hair, and just thinking this morning as I'm taking a quiet and reflective walk out, Tom was one of the oaks, like that tree behind me there. He'd become a believer in Jesus, and he'd done that in Australia many years ago, in a church that turned out to be quite, I'm just going to say, controlling. And through many difficult trials and turns, and he freely admitted that he hadn't always got things right, just like the rest of us, he ended up following what he was convinced was a responsibility he'd entered into, the call of God on his life. He turned up in pursuing that in a congregation we'd begun a number of years ago now, and there was something about him. And you know how it is when you've got a good close friend like that. You share things that life brings along, and life brings along, I've got a reminder here, it brings along both prickles and berries. The stuff that hurts and the stuff that's fruit. Not that I'm recommending you eat holly berries, of course, but you get the general idea. So now, no more long reflective emails from Tom about one thing and another, sharing our hearts together. Not for a while at least. Tom was a believer in Jesus, and he did shoulder some trials and some challenges. And now, I guess the fruit of that faithfulness is going to be seen. There's a very interesting verse in the book of Job. Now, Job was a guy who went through stuff as well, and he didn't always have people around him who would help him and encourage him. In fact, and this can be the experience of God's people, it's stuff we talked about together, the two of us, quite often. There can be people who would criticize you and blame you for the stance that you take and for the suffering that you're going through, as if it's your fault. That happens often, I don't know why. And Job was in that sort of situation. And in the midst of it, having just had a bit of a drubbing from so-called friends, Job comes out with a very famous verse. Job is very forthright about what he's going through. And yet he says, and he addresses these friends who are giving him a hard time, he says, "I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh shall I see God." Now, how do you persevere through times of challenge, difficulty, times perhaps when you feel as if everybody else has got it in for you, and there are not many human encouragements to be had? You need to be like that oak tree with roots going down deep, sucking moisture and nutrients from a low level because they're not readily at hand to you, not giving you the strength from close by. We need to go deep. And Job goes deep into God and into the hope that whatever's happening now, my Redeemer lives, the one who will buy me back from the things that are afflicting me and set me free. I know that my Redeemer lives. Whatever it is that I'm wading through, he is going to stand on the earth. And though what I stand in, this flesh, this body, will be destroyed. Yet in my flesh, flesh back, not destroyed anymore, see? Mended, fixed, sorted. In my flesh shall I see God, my Redeemer, the conqueror over all that has been coming against me. And as my friend Tom walked this earth, through the mud and the clag and the weeds that spring up, that was his faith. And as we seek to walk through this claggy, muddy, weed-ridden patch of a land we live in, so that hope and that faith and that trust in the God who has now come, Job never saw that, and whose resurrection from the dead, fulfilling his Old Testament promises, is a pretty sure cert, a pretty real reality. Having seen that, we have confidence in him to keep plodding through it, to keep wading through. And my prayer for anybody hearing this today is that you and I both will be confident in that faith in Christ, and will know that just as my shadow stands before me floating on this boggy bit, our Redeemer will stand on the earth in that last day. We in our flesh shall see God, because we've turned from our self-reliance and going our own way and put our trust in the one who defeated death. That's my word for the week. Verse for the tough times. I know that my Redeemer lives, and that he, the one who redeems, will stand on the earth.